I'm Judy Gray, and thank you for joining me on Market Yourself Beautiful. Remember, you only have one chance to make that first impression, and I'm here today with a very dear friend of mine, Marlene Henderson. She's a personal yoga instructor, and she's here to help us with getting ourselves together. One of the aspects I've been talking to everybody about is just being your best self and putting your best self forward, and that deals with mind, body, and spirit. And so I wanted to invite you here today, and I thank you for joining me.
I'm glad to join you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're such a very dear friend. We've been friends for a lot of years, and I just respect your yoga insight. And I just wanted to ask you a few questions about yoga and help us on how we can be our best selves. So
Okay.
tell me a little bit about yoga. First of all, what is yoga?
Yoga means yoke.
Okay.
It's a union, so you are uniting your mind, body, and spirit.
Okay.
Much of what we practice in America is asanas, so it's more of a physical practice for many of us. The background from the Vedic culture, way before Hinduism, which a lot of people relate yoga to, was more about all three, your mind, body, and spirit. So not just the asanas, but also being able to be spiritually and mentally sound.
Okay. So it's just aligning all of those things
Yes.
together. There's been a little controversy about yoga, and especially in America and the church. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and what you feel about that, and how we just what does that mean to you? How do you correlate yoga and the meaning of the origins of yoga into your own beliefs spiritually?
Okay. Well, when I first started yoga, I had that thought as a practicing Christian that was a big deal, and I kept hearing that it was not. It was more of a religion, and you shouldn't practice it because it was against Christian beliefs, and probably many other faiths, I'm sure, had the same concern.
Right.
But it's not a religion.
Okay.
It is not taught as a religion. There are some basics that everybody can practice and should feel free to practice. And when you start to practice, you start to see that a lot of some of the same movements you probably did in your PE class.
Okay.
The difference is that when you start to unite the mind, body, and spirit, which I connect to a lot of the athleticism that people have. They run, they do Pilates, ballet, all the different forms of exercise. You also get that focus where you are finding one thing to focus on, and your mind is clearer, your body is healthier. So whatever the choice is, whichever activity you choose to do is your choice. Yoga, I think, gives people the opportunity to really unite all three and focus on meditation, quieting the body, and there are asana poses that particularly align different parts of the body in different ways, and you get an opportunity to stretch those and extend on the health in different aspects. Christianity, my master trainer, when I went for my first training, was at the end of our class, she asked, did anyone have any questions again? And finally I asked about the belief system, and she said, I know that there's someone who probably has a question. I just kind of feel like there is. So I asked that question, and someone else had asked about it. And she explained that she was a practicing Christian, and she also had those same concerns, and she had been practicing for over 20 years. And she had never had any issues with it when she started practicing, because of course that is your choice of where you're taking it.
Or
The
what
practice,
your focus is.
what
in
your
other words.
focus is.
I
Yeah,
got you.
because yoga, there are so many forms of yoga. There are 4 different paths. But if whatever your religious practice is, probably that's when if you go down a spiritual path with yoga outside of your asanas, it's probably going to be something closer to what you practice.
So when you say asanas, what do you mean by that?
It's just the physical movements of yoga. So yoga is about meditation. It's also about physical movement. But there's Kriya Yoga where you sit and focus on meditation, and it's a lineage that's been passed down over centuries, where there isn't much asana. There may be just 2 or 3 movements that are done. Everything else is focused on breath.
Well, I will say to those that are joining us that yoga, I used to have this really bad attitude about exercise. I used to say that I exercise my right not to exercise.
Yeah.
And you don't really appreciate it until you have as I had an injury or a setback. I had a knee that's had a torn meniscus and had to have a surgery. And you get a fear that you'll never walk normal, something's not right, and I knew that my body was out of balance, and so that forced me into then having to do rehab, and that's when I learned yoga. And I told people that for me, I couldn't walk in the morning without getting up and doing at least 10 minutes of stretching. So that stretching saved my life. And then I also heard people, a man that was 96 years old that does yoga every morning and was physically fit. And I thought, well, you know what? I need to check that out.
Yeah, there's something to it.
Right, there's something to that. So it was more than just, and I've had the different, for me, I've had CDs and things that I've worked with, and I know that some of them would go into some kind of chanting, blah, blah, blah. I just cut the volume down, and I didn't do those. But I think it's good for all of us to center,
Oh, absolutely. I think that the centering, taking the time for self
right,
is something that we're just so busy not doing. We're busy doing everything else but not taking care of ourselves. And yoga allows you to just quiet your mind.
right.
And I always tell my students, if you're able to get in the middle of the busiest street, let's say Poplar for us, and stand there and you're able to focus on one pose or one thing and tune everything else out, that's where you want to get in yoga.
I don't know that I want to stand on Poplar and form a pose and tune everything out. So I don't
know how to tune everything
out. Right.
Just saying that you have that much going on and you're able to center yourself and not allow
block
everything else
out
to infiltrate your focus,
right?
Then that's a peaceful place to be.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll take that. Well, I'm not going to try that Poplar thing. But anyway, well, let me ask you, how long have you been doing yoga?
Now about 15 years.
Okay. And you've been teaching for how long?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how I got started. During my pregnancy, with my last child, I was not able to do any extra exercise or anything like that. And so I started taking yoga. And I was allowed to do that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. I can do this. And halfway through the class, I thought, when is this coming?
Oh, so you didn't like it initially?
No, I thought, oh, I can do all of that. That's great. It was so quiet. I just thought I was not going to be able to make it. So I kept going back, and probably, I guess maybe 3 or 4 times, I started to get it. Just settled down in my mind. My mind was just racing and looking at the clock. And,
right.
So that's how I started. And get myself healthy again and able to be in a really active place where I wasn't having backaches or stiff back, that's what got me into yoga.
Okay.
And during my pregnancy, I felt like it just changed everything for me, because the more I practiced and the more I learned about it, I was able to build the strength I needed for my delivery.
Right.
After that, I went back, and it just absolutely changed my body.
Well, that's the one thing when you said that, building the strength, because for me, the one thing that I learned from that knee injury is how important your core is.
Yes.
And how beneficial doing those stretches were in building your core muscles, and then also being aware of your body placement.
Yes. You will find places you did not know existed.
Oh, yeah. Yes, most definitely. But it's made a world of difference, like I said, because I really thought that just my gait, in walking was not normal. Everything was off. So to get all of that back again and to tone those muscles and to be aware
Yes.
of your body, if your center and your core muscles, and that was just beneficial.
Yeah, we did do focus just on core, myself and several of my private clients, because they wanted to get their backs strengthened, their core strengthened, and kind of focus on like summer bods.
Okay.
And that, I mean, just constantly focusing on your core, it holds everything else together. It is the center. So yoga is good for that.
Yeah, some of us who are getting a little older, who things that we didn't think about before, and you have to start thinking about them now. So I no longer say that I exercise my right not to exercise. I exercise my right to exercise, because I got to hold it together. So I'm thankful for yoga. But why would somebody choose yoga over other forms of exercise?
I would say personal preference would probably be because they're usually looking for some sort of healing. Yoga has a history of healing because of the way that you breathe, the way that you move your body. It focuses on being gentle and taking care of the body, even in the fastest forms now, our Western styles. But it's just different. It's totally different. Your mind is clear when you are done with the lesson. It's not as fast as, say running and all those things. So a lot of people that come to yoga come because they've had some sort of injury, a doctor has sent them, or they're looking for relaxation.
Now you said something very important. You said it's a lot more gentle.
It is.
Right. So, and I'm not knocking any other form of exercise, because there are some that I really love. I've done water aerobics, which I enjoyed. What's the one where people are dancing?
Zumba.
Zumba.
Yes.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, I said, these people are on Zumba crack. Like, so it's great for cardio. So I'm not knocking that, because I love that too. But I went and took another class, which I think it was Pio. That's what it was.
Oh, Pio.
Yeah. And they said, get on the ground. And I couldn't figure out with my knees at the time how I was going to get there. And finally I just fell. And the whole class was like, are you okay? So I really appreciate yogurt. Yoga. Yeah. My mind's on food. But anyway, I appreciated yoga because it was a lot more gentle on the body. And then the stretching as we get older, too. Do you want to say something about that? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, my master that I was mentioning before, Kong Ri, is the person that I took my lessons from. He was maybe 80 when I started taking from him. You wouldn't know it.
Right.
But every class session, he would say, we must take care of our bodies every day. We get up, we're stiff.
Right.
And the more I listened to him, he would tell little stories, each time.
Right.
And I realized that, okay, he can jump and touch the ceiling, but apparently he also has a normal body, and he's not
Superman.
Right. He's not a magician. And the more I listen to his stories, I realized, okay, so he's telling us the younger crowd and the classes, were mixed in age groups, but it was letting us know that you still have to take care of your body every day,
right,
or it's going to stiffen up, because of course once we lie down,
right,
no matter what your age, your body is now relaxed. Things are not circulating. Your blood's not moving the way it was when you were walking down the street.
Right.
So you just really need to make a habit of taking care of yourself every day, even if it's small increments.
Right. And the one thing you said that's very important, nobody tells you about that aging process.
Nobody.
And some of those things that are happening, and you're like, wait a minute. It used to be you could lay in bed all day, and then when you get a little older, about 6:30, 7 o'clock, you're like, ooh, everything hurts.
That's
I can't
right.
lay here any longer. And even breathing, because isn't breathing a part of yoga, and how important it is to...
It's a huge part. The type of yoga I teach is vinyasa.
Okay.
So it's more of a flow. Hatha yoga is all forms of yoga. It's but vinyasa, meaning that the flow is going with your breath. Ashtanga yoga is similar in the way that you move with your breath, sort of like Tai Chi or karate, and you notice that in these martial arts, they're constantly using their breath, and they're taking in and breathing out as they flow through their movements. Yoga is the same.
Okay.
Ashtanga is more about the sequence and breath, and they're always using the same sequence. Whereas vinyasa, you may go to a class and it would be a little bit different each time. It might not be the exact same pose after one another.
So they don't have names for their poses?
There are names for the poses.
But they just do them differently.
But they might mix it up.
Okay.
Yeah, so every class won't be the same.
Okay. And I didn't realize there were so many different forms of yoga. And you did mention Hinduism, but where did yoga originate? Did it originate in different countries, or did it originate in one particular?
Well, the studies I've had are, it started in the Vedic culture, which is a lot older than Hinduism.
Okay.
But it was in India.
Okay.
There's also a faction that apparently says that there was yoga in the pyramids.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
don't know much about that, but yeah, it's
Well, I can testify that there is definitely value to it, and as I mentioned, it has been my saving grace in helping me to get my health back. So I really enjoy that, and that's why I invited you here today. I wanted you to share with everybody the benefits. So if you want to, let's take a moment now. We're going to get set up, and you're going to give us a little mini class. But before we do that, and I'll tell you again at the end, but if you're interested in private lessons with Marlene, you can reach her at her website, which was lalayoga@wordpress.com. And so she can come to you. She sets up group classes or individual classes, private lessons. And I wish I could say I'm working towards my beach bod, but I'm just trying to walk. In fact, I'm sitting here like covering my bod as we talk. But that's the wherever you are in your journey, don't forget. You're exactly perfect, and it takes sometimes a loss, which is what happened to me, which is unfortunate, for you to really appreciate the value of, of where you are. And in fact, share this story. I was running through the grocery store the other day, and I was in a rush trying to get somewhere, and this lady looked as I'm passing her, and she says, "Oh, I sure wish I could run like that." And I literally almost cried, because I can remember shopping in the cart, after my knee surgery for Easter dinner. So to be at the place where I could run through the store, someone notice me and make a comment about it, was enough to bring me to tears. So yeah, I'm not your Sports Illustrated swimsuit model, but I'm so happy to be where I am, and wherever you are, just know you're beautiful. So, and I appreciate you being here with us. So we're going to stop right now and get set up and let you teach us a little yoga.
Okay.
Great. All right. Thank you for staying with us, and Marlene's going to give us a quick class. We shook the dust off of my mat to get started, and you're going to show us some simple moves just to get us our day going. And I'm going to do the best I can. And also, always, you can modify them, right?
You can modify any asana, and I'll show you some modifications.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So we're going to start standing, and we're going to turn to the side of the mat. Just opening our legs wide. Bring the arms up for sunflowers. Taking in a deep breath, and then we can move, bending the knee. If we're having a hard time with our knees, we can stay just standing and moving the top. Inhale. And exhale up. One more deep breath. And we're going to release. Come back to the mat here. We're going to bring our arms out and slowly lower and release. Once again. Inhale and exhale up. Inhale down. Exhale up. One more. Inhale down and exhale up. We're releasing, bringing the palms to our sides. We're in mountain. We're going to widen our feet. On the inhale, we're going to bring our hands up and swan dive down. Bring the palms to the mat. We can keep our knees bent if we're taking care of our low back. Or hang here in monkey. Just allowing the top of the body to just hang here right in front of our feet. We're going to bring our palms down to the mat. Walk our hands slowly forward. Preparing for down dog. We're just alternating heel presses, or we can stay still here. The other modification is coming down to the knee. And holding there. Focus on breath. Tuck the head in between the arms. On the inhale, we're going to come down, modify on our knees. And lower. Slowly. Taking a deep breath. We can rest here on our chest. Or slowly come up in cobra. Taking a deep breath. Like to use my toes to prepare. And my knees, they're going to help me come up. Come here. And slowly come up and down dog. Tuck the head between your arms. And alternate heel presses here. Or standing still. On the inhale, we're just going to walk our feet forward. Hold here in forward fold. Or hanging in monkey. Focus on breath. And we're swan diving up. Keeping the palms here in mountain. Bring the feet out. Relax the shoulders. Give just a moment for the head to check in. Taking a deep breath. On the inhale, we're just going to bring our palms in front in prayer position. Slowly just focus on breath. Relax the shoulders. Slow the breath. Here we're going to find a focal point. Keep our gaze there. Taking deep breaths. We can close our eyes and focus on 3 breaths. Inhale, in through the nostril. And exhale through the mouth. Again, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And we can release. Namaste.
Namaste. What does that mean?
I see the light in you, or the God in you.
I see the God in you as well. Thank you so much. Yay. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Appreciate that. Felt good. Oh, good. We're gonna do some sitting stuff or just sit down stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you?
Well, we just come down to our mat, sit on our hips, and the modifications here. If you're having a hard time with your knees, always like to keep the knees bent to keep all that pressure off the back if you can. If you can have your knees flat, that's good too. Let's like to start off coming forward, in forward, forward. And focus on breath. And here we just like to push the chest forward.
Let me show you the modification of
here.
that. This is the modification of what she's doing.
And we just focus on breath. And our breath, we like to breathe Ujjayi breathing. I remember when I first started doing Ujjayi breathing, and my friend gave me Ujjayi breaths throughout class. And it's inhaling through the nostril only, not exhaling through the mouth.
Okay.
And it just builds the fire and heat. I had learned it in my training, but of course my friend decided to challenge me and say, oh no, you need to just do Ujjayi breathing in your class.
Just through your nose.
And the first time I did it, I thought, oh my goodness. Give me a
Headache, okay.
So after a while you get used to it and it just becomes just natural.
But it's natural for us to, the oxygen, taking in a lot of oxygen is just good for us. And I don't think most of us breathe deep the way we're supposed
It's
to.
really shallow breathing that we do all day.
Right.
Yeah.
But that oxygen does what to our bodies to breathe in like that?
It builds your lungs
Okay.
as well as bringing lots of oxygen to your brain, and that's why you feel so clear.
Okay.
You know, when you're done with your exercise, and you have runners who are breathing in a flow pattern as they run, so it makes a huge difference.
Okay.
Very healthy for you.
All right. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to my good friend Marlene for being with us. Marlene Henderson, and check out her website. It's Lala Yoga. Lala Yoga. Where did that come from? Lala Yoga.
Well, I have a little student that would pronounce my name as Malalaleen.
Malalaleen.
And then it became Lalaleen. And
Okay.
so it just kind of stuck.
Okay, Lalaleen
is my nickname.
I like that. So Lala Yoga at WordPress.com. Check her out for private instruction and group lessons. She's fabulous. Thank you so much, Marlene. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in to Market Yourself Beautiful. Now remember, you only have one chance to make that first impression. So don't forget, you're beautiful. Thanks for joining me.